What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another edition of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and joining me on this Alien Earth Episode 3 review is the one and only Facehugger Dave.
It is me back from our fishing trip that I had with my brother. Yeah, we couldn't review it the day or the night of because I was away, but I certainly did see it that night in my hotel room bed, and I was just blown away, man. This show keeps on getting better and better, and I'm I'm ultra excited. There's a bunch of Easter eggs we can talk about, and
Yes.
philosophical stuff that they're pursuing, the ideas of transhumanism and what it is to be to not to ask the question, when is a machine not a machine? It's a very deep question there.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that because I feel like, well, we'll get into that. But this is going to be our, like I mentioned, our Alien Earth Episode 3 review. If you're not watching the show, don't know why you are hesitant or waiting. We've been talking about it since before the first episode dropped on Hulu because we were lucky enough to catch an early glimpse of the series on two separate occasions, and both times it was just epic what we witnessed. And Noah Hawley and team have really outdone themselves by creating a worthy addition to the legendary Alien franchise. So once again, this is going to be our Alien Earth Episode 3 review. Won't get into spoilers right away. Gonna hang on to those for a few minutes, so you guys can hang out here if you haven't seen it yet, and then I will be sure to give a spoiler warning before we start getting into any specifics. But if you haven't already figured out, go watch it when you can. Get caught up. Episode 4 drops this week, and there's really so many, not only surprises for the show, but so many. They're just so busy with this project. We'll talk about that at the end of the end of this episode. What else the FX team and the Alien Earth team is doing, especially in our neck of the woods. So here we go, episode 3. Let's get into it right now. Um, this is a great episode for me because we the show has raised so many questions in the first two episodes, and we're starting to get some answers to some things. And you and I had a lot of discussions about who's pulling the strings, what's going on, whether or not the writers of the show are, I don't want to say baiting the audience, but I did feel like they were leaving some things open to either interpretation or for some plot twists. And I mentioned those in our previous episodes, and I think there's a few of them I hit right on the money. So I'm really excited about what they're doing because they are slowly peeling back the layers of this mystery. It's not only a sci-fi project, it's not only an action project, but it is a mystery thriller, or maybe a political thriller. It might be a better description because what is occurring is there are at least two corporations that are larger than anything we've experienced in our modern day society that are basically at odds with one another. And you're starting to see the beginnings of corporate warfare. Is that a term that's been used before? I think it's going to get really gritty and really ugly very soon in the next few episodes. What that entails or what that means, I think, is yet to be seen. But they're laying the foundation for an absolute war between these two massive corporations, all vying for dominance over future science, over technology, what have you. And that's it's the name of the game. It's capitalism at its worst, is what we're witnessing in the future day and age. And episode 3 is really starting to snowball into that area of putting these two heavyweights against one another. and I really can't wait to see what happens because it's an alien show, but you have these subplots that are so fascinating, and so that's another reason why I'm just hooked on this series for just what they're giving us outside of just xenomorphs and facehuggers. Your thoughts on episode 3 before we start getting into spoilers?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, man. It's about philosophy, it's about politics, it's about the humanities, how people interact with each other, capitalism at its worst. I'm pretty much echoing everything you said, but there were a few nods that I didn't catch in the beginning, but I've seen the episode about 4 or 5 times by now, and I've just had it playing in the background, and I had it on my big screen, and I noticed a couple things, and then the connections back to Peter Pan, and that's going to be a through line through the series, and it was just great, and of course the needle drop at the end, that was great too. I'm kind of surprised how people aren't like doing like a betting line for what band is going to be the next band, because you had Ozzy, you had Tool, and now you had the band for this episode, which is a classic band.
We can say it's Metallica,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, it's Metallica. Um, what do you think? Let me ask you, what do you think the next band is going to be for the next needle drop?
What's interesting is that if you would have asked me who are the three most influential rock or metal bands in history, those would have been the three.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it's Ozzy and or Black Sabbath. You kind of put those two together. Tool and Metallica, like those are the three most influential. Everybody who ever picked up a guitar or turned on the distortion all the way up on their amp did so because of one of those three bands, or at least 90% of everybody who ever did it because of one of those three bands. If you're gonna ask me who's the next, and it feels like we're not gonna stray away from like the metal. It's not rock. It's not classic rock. It's a step above that, and so you're getting into some really interesting territory. I could. It, it's it's a good, very good question. Like it shouldn't even be. I don't even think '80s metal would fit. Like I wouldn't say Van Halen would be a good option because it's a little bit more commercial. It's a little bit more. It's
More
leaning towards more pop. Not it's not Van
right,
Halen is pop,
right.
but like it's more commercialized.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
There
lighter.
needs to be a tinge of like dirtiness and um, almost like a morbid quality to it.
I mean,
I want
I
to say I want to say Nine Inch Nails. That might be a band that there's a song drop there.
I would not mind that. I think they might stick with older generation. I could see them doing like an Iron Maiden tune, but it'd have to be something um kind of slower in tempo. Like I wouldn't choose Run for the Hills or something like that, even though that's just an epic song.
Yeah.
Unless I could actually, you know what? I take it back. Unless there's a cliffhanger at the end of episode 4 where they are basically being chased or they're running out of some difficult
Right.
situation. They barely escape with their lives. Yeah, Run to the Hills would be just an epic song to play at the end of that one. I like what they're doing. It's really cool, but they are definitely sticking to sort of a heavier metal aspect. So it's either Maiden. I don't think they go too obscure. Like I don't think they'd ever play like a Slayer tune, like nothing like that.
Well, I mean, Tool is notorious for never being in a TV or film, so it was a total shocker that we got Stinkfist.
It's it's weird. They are as big as you can get
Yeah,
without
without the commercial appeal. Yeah.
the commercial appeal. Yeah, you're not going to see them and having their songs on advertisements, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the very
It
next
was
day,
very
Adam
odd.
Jones posted a little bit of it on his Instagram,
Yeah, I
and
saw
I was
that.
like, "Hell yeah, that's awesome!"
Yeah, it's something like maybe again, it's like you could throw a Godsmack song in there, but it would have to be something that's a little heavier, more
Mm.
serious in tone, not any of the like really commercial things that they've put out in the past. Maybe Disturbed, something like that.
Yeah, Disturbed would work.
Disturbed
Yeah,
would work, but again, it's got to be like less of the up tempo stuff. It feels like they're sticking to like really gritty, slow, serious stuff.
yeah,
So
it's
if
got to
it's
be a little dark.
Disturbed, it's none of their. It's not Down with the Sickness, nothing like that.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe even Stained. I went through like I revisited all my old Stained albums like a
Stained
few
would work
months
too.
ago,
Yeah.
and yeah, so we'll see what happens. Um, I say we get into spoilers now. So if you haven't
Mm.
watched episode 3, we're gonna get into the details of it, and this is really to explore some of the plot points of what the show is doing and theorize where it might be headed. We don't have any leaks, nothing like that, but there are some things we've been theorizing since episode 1 that I feel like are heading down the trajectory of what we've been talking about. So here we go. Spoiler warning for episode 3, which is entitled Metamorphosis. First thing we just need to talk about is where we left off with episode 2. Joe gets tackled um, outside of the ship by a xenomorph, and honestly, I really thought like you really have to explain to us why the Xeno doesn't just immediately destroy him um, upon impact, or how they even survive the impact of the fall. They didn't really show us how he survived the impact of the fall, but they also showed us that Joe was basically being kept by some of that slime webbing that we have seen in the past. It's not like it's never been used, but when it gets used and why it gets used is always sort of flimsy. Not a big deal to me. It's not a deal breaker, but I'm just like, okay, I'll go with it. Your thoughts on Joe surviving his fall, and is the Xeno's not playing? The Xeno's not planning anything, right? He just kind of did it randomly,
Well, I think if you go back to James Cameron's Aliens, remember that scene where you had all the people stuck on the walls? I mean, they
right?
were setups for the face huggers. I think he was essentially trying to build that
There you
nest
go.
for all the people to have the face huggers implant and get the chest bursters to come out and have the new xenomorph like colony run amok. Um, but yeah, it was a little odd to me that Wendy didn't jump after out of the hole.
She would have
She,
survived. We
she
know
would have
this.
survived any fall. Um, that was an interesting choice
It
where she
was.
just like did like a 180 and started running back. Um, so that was a little odd.
I I think the only thing that it helps is playing off the episode with the Tool song, because if she jumps, your expectation is we're gonna follow her. The story continues, right?
Mm.
But instead, it's like no, no, no. This is the end of the episode. We need to play off this sequence here, and we'll see you next time. That kind of a thing. I think that's the only thing it supports is concluding that episode. But I will say what we got, after Wendy finds Joe was really fun. Basically, them being in this tanker.
Yeah. But actually, before that, though, there's a little bit of an Easter egg.
Ooh,
When Wendy runs back and she doesn't jump out, she's running through like a hallway corridor. And the only reason I noticed this was because I was far away from the TV. But when she runs through the corridor, the camera is angled in such a way where the opening makes a heart
hmm,
and there's sparks flying down and it turns red and I think it turns blue and she runs right through it and there's like cabling that comes down that makes turns it into a heart. So
interesting.
and I think electricity is going to be a major factor because if you remember Alien Romulus, there were hints about what the xenomorph was because electricity you could see it run through the body and especially the teeth and the head in alien Romulus because there's a huge gash on the xenomorph and there was electricity running through, which there's a theory that these aliens are possibly that there is something to their anatomy that they're biomechanical, a lot like what Wendy is, a consciousness in a machine body.
I've not ever thought
When
or
you think
heard
about
of
it,
anything remotely close to that.
ever since the beginning, these xenomorphs, their teeth are like steel. You know, they are kind of built out of non-biological material in a way. And of course, acid doesn't melt through their skin. We've never really delved really deep into the actual anatomy and detailed it out. So that's kind of a theory. And of course, human beings, we learned from the Matrix that we're all charged with electricity. And of course, now being a hybrid synth, Wendy is full of electricity. And of course, ever since episode one, I think she's been hearing the voices and the voices of the aliens.
Yeah, she's definitely hearing something, and it's either a frequency or it is a noise that not only she can kind of only hear, we think, but also it affects her in such a way
Right.
that it could cause serious damage to her, or it definitely causes some sort of pain,
It's
which
like an emotional pain.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
We can talk about this right now. I was going to wait till later, but let's talk about that part now.
Yeah.
It's odd because Wendy was this whole technology was engineered without any sort of influence of alien entities, alien biology, as far as we know. There's no evidence to show that these hybrids were engineered by any other means than what technology resides on Earth. So the fact that these alien creatures, and we think it's only the face huggers and the Xenos that have this ability to cause her any sort of distress. The fact that it's only those creatures, because I don't think it's any of the other four. I think we were told that there's officially five different specimens on the ship.
Yes.
That was mentioned in this episode, and
Yes.
I can't even tell you. I know the eyeballs,
Yeah. The face hugger. I
the
guess.
the
Well,
big mosquitoes.
the eggs.
Okay, yeah, the eggs, the eyeball,
Two.
the scorpion blood sucking guys.
Okay. Three.
Um,
That
there's
like tulip looking
yeah, the flora
thing with
thing.
the like long tongue that comes out,
Yep, yep, yep. That's
and
four.
there's one more.
And then I guess one of these guys on our screen. Yeah. So those five. I feel like I'm missing one. No, maybe not. Either way,
Yeah.
nothing that we've seen that they've done have caused her any sort of distress or similar distress. So why on earth would only the face huggers and the Xenos cause her any sort of distress? The only thing that I can really focus on is that these um, side effects didn't start until after she had accessed her ability to manipulate either digital signals or technology.
Right.
She was able to display and manipulate a TV or movie program for her brother Joe, and she did that remotely from another location. And it wasn't until after she started that she used that ability that these side effects started happening, where these
Right.
creatures are negatively affecting her.
Right.
So
Right.
perhaps they also, this would kind of fit in with what you were saying. They have some sort of frequency or they give off some sort of signal that she is able to um, feel or hear, and it is either so alarming or just so alien, no pun intended, to her
Mm.
that it affects her physically and probably more mentally than anything else. That's all I can think of, and it kind of makes a little bit of sense because it's not like her old brain was hooked to a tube to the new brain. No, no, no. This entire transference was all done externally. It's moving probably energy and waves and frequencies from one mind to the other. Um, there's a word for it. I can't think of it. Um, but either way, like because of maybe her procedure and her ability to access digital signals, that's what she's feeling is these signals that these creatures are putting off. That's all I can think of, really.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea if we were able to free someone's subconscious from their body, what happens? And maybe this is kind of the explanation because Wendy's been in that synth body longer than any of the Lost Boys.
Right?
So she's had more time to kind of get used to her new synth adult body and learn to use it in maybe in ways that the Lost Boys haven't figured out yet. And she's a whole lot more confident in her new synth body. And she has powers they've conveyed to us. She's using those powers of digital manipulation, technological manipulation that Boy Cavalier had no idea that she had access to or could do. Nobody knew that. So when she did it, everyone was like surprised and I mean, were shocked. And in Boy Cavalier's mind, she became even more his favorite. And I love the fact that they're kind of digging in and delving into that aspect because that's a very universal question. And to this day, we don't know where our subconscious is located, where our consciousness is located, I should say. Um, and they were able to transplant it to another being. What happens? Does that open up and does that give you more abilities possibly to because it's like you're freeing something and if you're totally free from whatever your that consciousness is locked into, I mean, what happens? What are the consequences? What are the possibilities? And she can hear these aliens and it's like an emotional pain when Kirsch started cutting open that face hugger and pulled the tadpole out. It was like she could feel she had a connection with the tadpole. And then that was another cool thing that they kind of revealed that that's the thing that leaves the face hugger and goes into the person and you can see it. It's finally realized in live action.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of there's a little bit of controversy there with all the Alien fans.
Really?
Some
I didn't
people
hear
didn't like
that.
it. I liked it. It was cool. It was unique. It made sense.
What? Yeah. What do they think that's happening? Like they're dropping in um embryos, or what do they think that's gonna happen?
I'm not quite sure, but yeah, there was a little bit of disgruntledness online that they actually showed that. I think maybe they want stuff to be a mystery. I think there's a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of oh, this doesn't match up with the comics. And I don't think anything live action is really going to match up with the comics, really. But there is comic stuff that they are touching upon in this series, but I don't think it's directly related as canon material to this live action series. Like kind of like the telepathy stuff, and there's several other things that um, Noah Hawley is exploring in the series that has been explored in the comics a little
Yeah.
bit and a lot. So
This entire beginning sequence with Joe and Wendy in the Xeno, and when Wendy is able to decapitate it off screen. Um,
before she did that, though,
the entire oh, what
another Peter Pan reference.
interesting.
She Captain Hooked that second mouth.
which we've never really seen before,
You've
right?
never seen that before. That was like a cool way to defeat an alien. But the question is, was that alien submissive to Wendy? Because
I
there's
think
that
so.
there's that bridge communication there. Because that
Oh
Xeno
no.
could have just whipped the tail and like decapitated her, you know?
I think it's more than that. I think it's and I can't think of another animal that you can kind of
Tame,
figure out. Yeah, it's sort of like I don't know. Can't think of another metaphor for it, but I feel like having the inner mouth hooked
right?
was probably so severely painful
Right,
that
traumatizing to
it
it.
could not really perform any other um, maneuvers
Right,
or anything like that to get out of that situation because
right. It was like a pressure point type thing.
exactly. I
Yeah.
think that's the only thing that I could come up with because yeah, why wouldn't it just lunge at her? Because
Well,
she's pulling from it, so lunging at her to do that. But it's such a painful thing to have that inner mouth hooked or severed or what have you, that it was almost just brought to its knees in essence.
right. There is a theory out there that all these xenomorphs or whatever xenomorphs we're going to see throughout this show, they detect Wendy and they see her as maybe part of the species in a way, and they almost treat her like a queen. So that xenomorph was never going to kill Wendy. And if you look back at the episodes, it's not even trying to kill the brother. So maybe there's a connection there somehow because they're related. They're consciousness related. The consciousness wavelength line, bloodline, whatever. Um, and maybe that xenomorph, the reason why I didn't kill Hermit was because it wanted to lure Wendy out. And if you remember when they're in the trailer, the xenomorph is like
Doesn't
so
attack it.
docile. It just like shows its teeth and then it just backs away like like hands off. I mean, we cannot touch this being because it's almost like a pseudo queen type scenario in a way.
It's the questions that are being raised that I
Right.
definitely want answered because it feels like it's intentional.
Yes, it's all intentional.
It's not just because we want to have this cool sequence where the Xeno starts kicking around this tanker trailer, and it looks cool, but it needs to be explained exactly why these certain situations are occurring. Why doesn't attack Moro? Because I mean we'll get into this right here. Wendy decapitates the Xeno. Fast forward, they start taking all the specimens out, but Moro confronts Slightly and Smee,
Right.
and he would later, we'll talk about that in a second, gain the trust of Slightly. But he's human enough. He's a cyborg,
Hmm.
but he is human enough where these face huggers are can
Triggered.
sense his presence and want to use him as a host.
Hmm.
But he still was not human enough to where the Xenos didn't attack him when they had the opportunity. Or really, is it just because he wasn't of showing any sort of fear? Like though that question, I still ponder. What's hilarious is Timothy Oliphant at San Diego Comic-Con. He did mention in one of the things, his statements, that you're gonna watch an episode and then there's gonna be some things that keep you up at night, and it's not the scary things, it's not the horror elements, which are there, they're present, but he said there are gonna be some things that keep you up at night. I think this is the thing that's keeping me up at night. Why did Morrow survive a confrontation with a Xeno? It left him. It showed him mercy. These are the apex killing machines of the universe, and they showed him mercy. No idea why. It really should not be as simple as he doesn't show as much fear as other people do.
And
But
the xenomorph had his head right next to Morrow's head. And if you think of this episode, he clicked in and attached those data cables. So maybe, I mean, the Xeno was maybe confused, or it was relying on its maybe like visual cues for humans to be like freaked out and terrified. And he was just like, well, this is just a wash. I'm not sure what this is. It's not acting like one of these
yeah,
humans that can be totally sliced and diced.
again, is he not human enough to where he's not a threat? But the face huggers clearly felt he was human enough to be a potential host.
Yeah.
And so I'm not
Maybe he's
saying
more human waist down.
maybe that's what it is. But yeah, that was all very, very interesting. And I really want that to be answered
Yeah.
by the end of the season, which I think it will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Moro, it's very subtle, but Moro puts almost like a transmitter that's the size of, I would say, like a contact lens
Yeah.
on the neck of Slightly, and
Mhm.
that's how he's able to communicate with him remotely later in the episode. And he definitely sounds like he's manipulating him. I I'm wondering it's if any part of this conversation is genuine, or if he's really just going to use him as an asset for whatever comes next, which we're hearing from Morrow that he definitely wants all these specimens back in
Mhm.
the possession of Wayland Utani. There's a lot of information that's dropped at this part, so let's try and make sure we call out all of these things. First of which is Morrow's been in space for 65 years,
Yes.
which I feel like is extremely important for a number of reasons. First of which is we were not told any of those details at the beginning. However, we were given information that this crew was on like a 6-year journey, 6-year mission,
Mhm.
right?
I think so.
6 year,
Yeah.
6 month mission.
Yeah.
And so 65 years now, are you trying to tell us that he has been between episode 1 and now, that it's been 65 years? Like that much time has passed and yet we are not privy to that information? Like a lot could have happened in those 65 years, meaning like we're getting into, this is all a prequel to Alien, and now we are pretty much butting up between Alien and the sequel, Aliens, with if that's the exact amount of time that's passed. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to episode 1 where you see like the direct homage to the original Alien film where they wake up from the cryo sleep. And when they get up, it's kind of the traditional, they go and eat, and they address their synthetic on board, Tang. And was Tang maybe in on it? Because we all know Ash was the original synthetic played by Ian Holm that was like trying to get the specimen. So was Tang like a precursor to Ash? And we all know he was acting creepy and stuff. And he sat next to one of the female crew members, and she was like, I'm gonna leave. And then one of them mentioned it's creepy that he stares at me when I sleep.
Mm,
And that's a little bit of a through line for some of the movies as well. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how the ordering works out for all of this, because it seems like when they woke up, they asked Tang much longer to they get to Earth, and he said I think it was like 3 months or something. It was a matter of months and not
yeah,
years. So was that a lie? And was Morrow kind of in on it and maybe put them back to cryo sleep without them knowing, and then all hell broke loose? and they weren't aware of where in time they actually were. We got to really research that and figure that one out because that's kind of a little bit of a rat's nest.
Here's the implications if what they're saying is what we're thinking. Alien Earth started in the year 2120. Alien, the movie featuring the great Sigourney Weaver, takes place 2 years later.
Hmm.
That's long and gone. If we've been lost at space for 65 years, that's long and over with. Aliens, the sequel, takes place in 2179. If 65 years has passed since 2120, we are now already surpassed the events of Aliens.
We
We are
might.
now in 2185. If we've been lost at space for 65 years.
I think it's that year that you mentioned, 2160, right? After the 65 years has passed, and then it's
2120.
2120. So then we're in 2120 in the present on Earth, and then 2 years after that is when Alien takes place. I think that's the proper timeline.
But then what does the 65 have to do with anything?
Because they weren't supposed to be gone that long. I think because it was like a 6 month trip, and the crew was not told the fact that they were going to be gone for like a generation. And Morrow talks about it. He's like, everyone I know is dead. He had no idea what Prodigy was, but I think he had a directive, and his directive was to bring back the specimens, and the crew was expendable. And that's exactly what happened.
I'm wondering, and this would be unexpected, if Noah Hawley and the creative team are playing with time in this show because
Yeah,
it's
that's
never been
possible.
done. And so if if that's what they're doing, what are the reasons for it? And the reasons could be huge. Um, they could be setting up for some really epic moments, and the cast has already talked about, oh, episode 6. Wait till you get to episode 6 and stuff like that. And so, like, yeah,
You don't think we're going to get Ripley in this, do you?
I have no idea what we're gonna get. I really
Ripley and
don't.
Jonesy?
I have
Or we
no
get
idea.
Ian Holm as Ash? That would
I'm
be epic. What's
yeah,
the budget on this show?
I'm just wondering why what's all the reasons for this information that we're getting? There's got to be reasons for it. And if they are going to start playing with time, which listen, some of the best shows do that, right?
Mhm.
Westworld does that. I think Game of Thrones probably did that from time to time. It's going to be really interesting if they're setting up this component to the story, and what they do with it should be pretty epic because it's never been done in an Alien project as far as I'm aware of. So yeah, can't wait to see what comes of that. Um, Morrow also tells us there are 5 specimens. We sort of talked about that already. And I think this is the biggest thing that we learned in episode 3. Morrow says the words, "We were sabotaged." And I don't feel like he's being untruthful.
Mhm.
I said in episode 1, after we watched it, I said it feels too straightforward. They're trying to show us that he's either malicious or has some sort of hidden agenda. It felt too simple for me, and it felt like a great opportunity for a twist later on. I feel like now they've laid the foundation for that twist. We don't know who sabotaged them. I don't feel like it was Morrow in episode 1, and now I feel like it's all but confirmed he is just a victim as much as the rest of the crew was, and we will find out later on whether it was someone at Weyland Yutani that either ordered or was able to cause the destruction or the sabotaging of the ship, or maybe someone at Prodigy. This is all about two corporations that are all vying for power and dominance and technological advancements, are all fighting for the next thing. Maybe it was Prodigy that got wind of like what was the mission for Weyland Yutani, and they somehow were able to sabotage the vessel, making it crash directly in New Siam, where the Prodigy headquarters were. That would be a stretch, luck, if you will, but it happened, and Morrow didn't cause it. Who did? Was it really just a complete accident? Facehuggers got loose, everyone died, ship crashed in the one spot on the planet you don't want it to. A lot of coincidences, and I do not believe in coincidences, especially in a sci-fi project.
And another through line is baseball.
Mm,
There's so many baseball references in this show. Kirsch, Timothy Oliphant's character, made reference to a baseball going over the fence with the spaceship.
you're right.
He said, "The spaceship is a baseball, and it is now mine. It is now in my yard." And Morrow said something like, I don't take orders from errand boys. And then Kirsch said, "And what country are you king of?"
That was a
Yeah,
great comeback.
yeah. Yeah, Timothy Oliphant's killing it, man. He was born to play this role.
Are you with me now that Morrow was not the saboteur that we thought he was?
He's like one of those gray guys, I think. I mean, he's not totally evil, he's not good. He's kind of doing what he thinks is right. And that I wouldn't say totally benefit him, but he does make mention of how many lives were essentially sacrificed for these 5 specimens. So that's an indicator of what his motivations are. And his motivation is to get these specimens back because a great cost was paid for these specimens. And he talks about that like being his legacy. This is all he's living for now because everyone he knew before is dead because 65 years have passed.
Yeah. I I feel like we are on this character arc of full redemption. What that looks like, it probably means confronting whoever is leading Weyland Yutani. Either him turning his back on them because he probably figures out that somebody at Weyland Yutani turned their back on him and his crew,
Right.
left them for dead, or there has to be another one or two parts of the mystery that we are yet to find out to kind of make a full assessment of what happened on that ship. But I love it. I love it that the first episode we skipped all of the chaos that ensued on the vessel, and now we are basically meant to pay attention to what had happened, who caused it, what were the reasons, and we're supposed to ask all those questions. These are all great questions to be asking. I think that's why another reason why this series is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a survival tale. It is absolutely a sci-fi mystery thriller,
Mm-hmm.
mystery political thriller, and I love every moment of it. Um, so yeah, he talks to Slightly, and he asks the question, when is a machine not a machine? I love riddles.
Yeah. And that's a
And
great one.
in context, I feel like the question is going to be, I mean, the answer is going to be simple, yet either slightly comical or thought provoking.
Right.
So it's going to, the answer will be something, it won't be something simple like when it's unplugged or when it's dead or when it's been, eliminated. It's going to be something else when it's born or when it feels or when it saves human life.
Yeah.
It's going to be either something slightly comical or something slightly thought provoking, but the answer will mean something, or else they would have answered it in this episode. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you said slightly a few times in there.
Hmm.
Um, it is complex and it is simplistic in its nature because we know that consciousness has been transferred. I would say if consciousness from a human is transplanted into a machine, it's no longer a machine. It is something else. It's a word we haven't created yet
Mm.
because there is or was a living human being once in its own body and transferred to something else. So it's no longer machine at that point. It's something else. Even though mechanically, visually, perceptual, it's a synthetic robot. And I love the way they got to the point where Morrow asked the question, when is a machine not a machine? Because slightly revealed that he had parents, and that kind of triggered Morrow, and he's like, you don't these guys don't know. These guys don't know that they're synthetic robots because he doesn't know that they're hybrids. And there was another thing that tipped him off, that they were hiding something. What was the line? Do you remember?
Well, they kept saying to each other,
Yeah,
"Don't tell him."
yeah. Don't tell. And yes, and he's like, "Don't tell me what." And then they just kind of refuse to say anything, and that's when I think Morrow kind of like softened his approach to them and figured out that he could probably use these kids in adult bodies. And he figured it out right away that, and he said it out loud. He's like, these are just a couple of kids. And then, of course, when Kirsch shows up, pretty much an adult minded synth, which he's a straight up just synthetic being. He's not a hybrid. And he asked, are you his parents? Or are you his parent? And then Kirsch is like, he makes a face and he's like, I'm not here to discuss any details about them. I'm here to talk to you directly in so many words. Paraphrase there. But yeah, I loved that kind of interaction and how they got to the point where Morrow sensed something was amiss, and then he figured out how to kind of do the whole contact lens in the neck to do the communication to slightly. And in that communication, he totally smiled when he spoke. He softened his approach. He talked to him like he was a little kid. He played on the fact that slightly believes without a shadow of a doubt that you need friends. So he asked if he could be his friend. And friends are an important tenet in Slightly's very young consciousness.
Yeah,
And he's totally going to use that. We're going to see that in the future. It's going to be Morrow's way in most likely. And I thought it was fantastic writing to convey all that very clearly to the audience was just fantastic.
I love it. I am also worried now because Morrow, it now seems like he's desperate enough to take any actions necessary to complete or salvage
Yeah,
this mission. And so if he's going to start manipulating, using slightly to his benefit, um, he could be expendable. He could also be a loose end
right,
when it comes down to it. So
right,
for me, it does feel like slightly is in a much more dangerous situation than he or we are led to believe. It just feels like that's sort of the trajectory that now he's headed down. Um, there are only so many roads, and none of them are going to be good. Starting now, so I am very worried for Slightly. You know what? I'm always curious why we know what these kids are capable of. All the hybrids, the Lost Boys. We know what they're capable of, but for some reason, none of those abilities are being put to use.
Right.
Maybe it's because some of them are very, new to this experience still. Um, but man, if you and I were 10, 11, 12 years old,
We
and
would be acting like superheroes.
we would absolutely be acting like superheroes. Like no doubt in my mind. We would definitely probably feel a little bit more confident or cocky, I guess, walking around knowing that we were borderline immortal.
Yeah, definitely
Um,
cockiness. We'd probably like set ourselves on fire and just laugh, you know,
well,
that type of thing. But yeah, it seems like they're not leveraging their superhero abilities. But we got to talk about two other hybrids.
please.
Nibs. Nibs is totally traumatized by the eyeball octopus alien attack. And there's a long scene in this episode where she's just staring at the creature. And I think it's Curly that asks her that if she's okay. And she realizes, hey, look, she's traumatized by this. So I think in Curly's eyes, she's weak.
Mm.
And I think Curly has a certain amount of jealousy over Wendy being Boy Cavalier's number one. And then she approaches Boy Cavalier. They have the conversation about Wendy being the number one. And Boy Cavalier very kind of seductively talks to Curly and gives her a little bit of hope, a little bit of daylight of maybe her overcoming and surpassing Wendy as possibly being the future number one. And that was very, very good writing to convey all that as well in a very short period of time with so many words. It was perfect. And now you have Curly as a wild card now that might do something to Wendy, maybe when she sees an opportunity to oust Wendy from being number one. I don't know if it's like kill her or maim her or leave her behind somewhere or feed her to one of the xenomorphs. Um, but like we saw, the xenomorphs maybe recognize Wendy as someone that shouldn't be touched. That's someone that's going to be um, part of the family or useful to the alien species. So those are two other hybrids that kind of got a little bit of the spotlight. And of course, Smee's relationship with Slightly, they're like best bros. And it was funny hearing the back and forth between them, like talking to like little kids about, oh my god, I ran into this monster and there was this octopus creature and it nearly took out Nibs, and just to hear them go back. I mean, they're doing a great job acting like little kids. We don't know they're grown adults, but they have to act like children, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How wild is it that even you bring up Curly and you bring up Nibs, all these subplots that a sci-fi project is doing, like it doesn't need to do any of these things. There's so many layers to
Right.
this
The
show.
complexity. Yeah, it's not a
It is so
straightforward.
rich.
It makes you. It's convenient for the thinking sci-fi fan. It doesn't stray away. It doesn't hide stuff necessarily. It puts it all in your face. The capitalism, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, the capitalism, the humanism, the existential questions that we've all had as human beings about consciousness, aliens. Um, I mean, it's all there. The army, what the future's going to be like, and the fact that I don't think they've really addressed it in the show, but Noah Hawley has addressed it in interviews and possibly Hall H. But the world is totally affected by global warming. It's warm everywhere. It's warm and sticky. It's like South Texas everywhere. So they shot this all in Thailand, which has a very humid, wet, warm climate. So, um, and let me ask you this. So, have you seen any of the synthetic body sweat?
No. I mean, no, no, haven't.
Morrow sweats like crazy.
He does.
He's a cyborg, but no one else is sweating. And I think that question was actually posed to Noah Hawley in an interview, and he said that he remembers Ian Holm, Ash, sweating in the original Alien. So it is possible they might just not do it a lot. They might have just like reserves for it, just so we don't totally freak out and like make us. It's like the whole thing where kind of like what David said in Prometheus. I wear the spacesuit just to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that kind of thing.
The rest of this episode revolves around the staff at Prodigy questioning their CEO, their young, brilliant CEO, on whether or not he's making the right decisions. They all feel somewhat guilty for the state that Wendy is in, but she does seem to fully recover. And then we actually see Timothy Oliphant's character, which I can't remember right now.
Yeah, Kirsch.
Kirsch. We see Kirsch performing a surgical procedure to not only remove the facehugger from the egg, but dissects it even further to find the larva that resides within it. And they make the determination this is the larva that actually finds a host, some biomaterial, gestates into what we know as a chest burster. One of the lungs, probably because it was necessary from Joe, is removed because he did get impaled, I think, by the alien tail.
Hmm.
And so the lung is removed and it is now being used as a test tube. And I don't think they're going to be ready for what happens next. That's just my first thought is they are trudging down dangerous territory without um, any sort of precautions or anything, any safety measures. If they are taking safety measures, then I will go along with it. But it doesn't feel like it's they're doing that. It just feels like they're just testing out things and see what happens, despite the fact that they know the end result of what will come of this procedure. Why are they doing it? Do you think?
Well, Kirsch knows. He told us that he knows the life cycle of the xenomorph. It's the egg, then it finds a biological host, attaches to the host, chest burster comes out, it develops into the full fledged, possibly weaponized xenomorph for Prodigy core. And I guess they just want to see. Boy Cavalier told them we have a full blown, fully loaded lab underground, and he wants to utilize it. And Kirsch knows the life cycle, so they pulled out a half of Hermit's lung and is using that as a host. And that tadpole. It seems like Wendy heard the screams of either the facehugger and or the tadpole, and she gets in there, and we get to the end of the episode, and she like collapses again, and it's like, is it from the emotional pain that she's receiving? Because that facehugger totally got dissected, and we see the acid bubble up, and of course it doesn't melt through the skin,
Right.
but it's contained on the top. Um, but like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, that tadpole is a little controversial because that was never something that was shown or described in past alien lore, comic book, movie, whatever. So they introduced something totally new. but it makes sense. I think to you and to me. I mean, there has to be something that gets shot down. Something living makes sense. You get a tadpole. We all know what tadpoles are. They eventually become something totally different from their their tadpole state. So it makes sense to me, and it's very interesting. It's translucent, and you can see transparent. You can see right through it, and it almost looks like an amoeba under a microscope with the tadpole shape. I thought that was a nice touch.
I think so too. It's fascinating that they would go into detail for all these things. Probably why this episode is titled Metamorphosis, because we're learning about
Yeah.
the metamorphosis of this creature to a xenomorph, more so than what we've learned in a very, very long time. And perhaps there's the mystery of what Wendy's being transformed into from what she was before. She was a hybrid, but we're gonna probably find out in the next episode or next couple of episodes um, why exactly she's so different, like what she's done and why she's so different from all the rest,
Hmm.
and go from there. I think it's fascinating what they're doing. Um, I'm looking forward to it. Later on today is the release of episode 4. I just looked it up. It is titled Observation. And I'm not going to read the short synopsis that they've provided.
I haven't
This
read
is
the synopsis, but it feels like it leads in right to what I just said. It's
mm,
the observation of the tadpole in Hermit's lung and seeing maybe the development. That would be really awesome to show going from tadpole to chest burster. And there's no chest to burst out of. So, what are we going to see? Is it going to go directly inside the balloon of the lung and burst out of that? I mean, what's it? I mean, it has to go. Seems like it has to go into something and then be sheltered and covered, and then it can do the burst.
mm. I'm excited. I'm stoked. Episode 4 dropping later on today, and I feel like there's no slowing of this series. That we're just on a sprint to either episode 6 or episode 8, whatever happens, kind of more dramatically. But I'm excited, and we want to hear from you folks at home. What are your thoughts through episode 3? What are your theories going forward? Drop those in the comments. You can always um, put your thoughts in the comments below or message us on our social media page at Countdown City Geeks. All right. That'll do it for us. But before we go, want to remind folks at home that we are now 2 months away from the epic return of SpaceCon San Antonio. If you are a Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan, Battlestar Galactica fan, or just a nerd in general, you do not want to miss this absolutely epic event. Its second year in existence, and right now we are showing off their stellar Star Wars lineup, headlined by Ian McDermott and Billy D. Williams. But you also got the likes of Giancarlo Esposito, who's making his return, Natasha Lou Bordizzo, Paul Bettany, Carrie Ann Moss, Ivana Sakno, and Sam Witwer, who's not slowed down his projects in the galaxy far, far away. He's got a new Darth Maul project coming out very soon that we're excited to talk to him about. And so get your tickets at spaceconsa.com. Find out more information on social media at SpaceCon San Antonio. We will be in attendance with our booth, giving out prizes, movie passes, and also talking with a bunch of the guests in attendance. But also the cast of Daredevil's going to be there. Um, Grant Gustin from The Flash is going to be there. It is a stacked lineup. Oh, we also have Brie Larson, Haley Steinfeld, Kristen Ritter, Elizabeth Olsen. I mean, just to name a few MCU greats. It's just an incredible event, and it's in the greatest month of the year, October. So yeah, do not miss it. It's going to be a one hell of a time, and you will be disappointed if you do not attend. Get there any way you can. It's going to be a great time, and we can't wait to see all you folks there. All right. Anything left to mention, Dave?
Um, I think we pretty much covered everything from that episode. Um, I just love Morrow's line. When is a machine not a machine? I mean that question, that riddle, like you say, is so loaded um, with possibilities and thoughts and answers and arguments, and yeah, it's just wonderful that we're getting this type of sci-fi inside of the Alien franchise, and we're eating well.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see what happens next. Halfway through the season later on today. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about episode 4 very soon. Please come back and join the conversation. Let us know what you like about it. Let us know what your theories are going forward. And we cannot wait. Noah Hawley and team have put together an absolute banger. Fans are eating good. It's epic, it's thought provoking, it's dramatic. They've spared no expense on what they're providing us. Even the special effects are just such high quality. Loving every bit of it. All right, that'll do it for us with the Countdown City Geeks. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this Alien Earth episode 3 review is the one, the only, Facehugger Dave.
What country are you the king of?
Have a good night, folks. See you next time. Peace.